Let us start off the session by chanting Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. All right. Now, which page are we on, please? I think we've
153.
153. Para guide to para 5, yes? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's read from para 5. 6-4 presentation of objects. 6-4 presentation of objects. The 6-4 presentation of objects should be understood as follows. At the 5 sense doors, it is 1 very great, 2 great, 3 slight, 4 very slight. B, at the mind door, it is clear and obscure. Guide to para 5. The presentation of objects. The Pali expression Visaya Pavati means the presentation of objects to the consciousness at one of the 6 doors, or the occurrence of mental consciousness upon the presentation of an object. The presentation of the object. Now, when it says the presentation of an object, the presentation of object is done by whom? Dil, what do you think?
So the presentation of an object can be presented to the ear door, or any of the sense doors, or to the mind doors.
So done by whom? Or what?
It by the adverting, the 5 door sense adverting consciousness, which turns the things towards you. So the 5.
No. Any ideas? Chamari? Miri?
Bhante, is it by the basis? So the object is taken through a door.
The bases.
Sorry?
What do you mean by the bases?
So it might be the ear base that the object. No?
No.
Okay. No, I won't know.
Miri?
Sense pasada rupas?
No. Imagine, I mean, think about it. The prasad, if the prasad rupa, or as Shamari said, the base, right? If these ones are the it seems as if, what does it seem like? Just imagine that process in your mind. If what Chamari and Miri said was true, then how would that actually look like? And how should it actually be?
Do you mean, Bhante, because it depends on the how strong the consciousness is, or how the object can be? It has to be clear. Sometimes it can be clear or not clear. But even if you have a clear object, if the consciousness is not very strong, or say, for example, the pasadarupa is weak, then how you would perceive that would be very different. No?
No.
Okay.
The presentation of objects. Who is responsible for the presentation of objects? Yes, Veera.
Your own, your attention.
No. Okay, I mean...
The sensitivity of the object.
Sensitivity...
when you see,
Okay, now
see
you're
the
touching on it. Tell me the proper thing now. We did this last week,
yes,
right? Who is or what is responsible for the presentation of the object? Even if you think about your meditation, you will understand this.
your consciousness, your door, and it's when you, isn't it the sensitivity presents at your door and the sensitivity of it? We see the rupa and
Not clear. I mean, yes, you're touching, but not right.
Bhante is the presence of light and the visibility of the object.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is what it is. The conditions which allow the object to come to you.
Okay. Yeah.
That is what is responsible. Now, that is a very important point.
Yeah.
That's a very, very important point, even for our meditation. Actually, I mean, this is all for our meditation, or else what else?
yes.
Really, right? That's a very important point. The object comes to you, right? The object comes to you, and the thing which is responsible for it is those four sections which allow that cognitive process to arise. What is that for? Do we remember?
The
Yes.
eye sensitivity,
Eye sensitivity.
The Prasada Rupa,
the visible light,
The light
light,
the attention,
and attention.
and
the object, the rupa araman, shabda
Right.
araman.
So
The
Manasikare.
mechanism, so all of that must work together in order for that presentation to happen. So it is now an external, that process which allows that object to be taken, right? Where it is thrown in. So the object comes to you, right? The object comes to you. So now the presentation of object, the Pali expression Visaya Pavati means the presentation of an object to consciousness at one of the 6 doors, or the occurrence of the states of consciousness upon the occurrence of states of consciousness upon the presentation of an object. The sixfold presentation of objects is analyzed into 4 alternatives at the 5 sense doors. 4 alternatives. It can arise in 4 alternative ways: very great, slight, and very slight. Right? For example, now when you are speaking, right? When you are speaking, you're focusing on the sound of your voice or what you're saying as words. But do you also see now as you speak, you're also taking air in? That creates a little sound. That sound, you don't really care much for it, or you are not really listening. But if you think about it, now you sort of hear that sound, the sound of you breathing, right? To sort of produce this sound. Now you see, the sound of you speaking is very great, whereas the sound of you breathing is not that great. Why? Because the mansikara is aimed towards the sound of your speech rather than the sound of you breathing. However, now let us say if I am to, or someone is to hypnotize you, right? And take you back to this moment in the past, you will be able to remember both the speaking and the breathing sounds. Why? Because it arose as objects in the past. However, because the attention was more to the very great object, the slight or the small, lesser object was not apparent at that moment. Yeah. And this happens all the time, right? This happens all the time. Sometimes you're very angry, but behind the anger, there is also pain. pain is more inward, anger is more outward, isn't it? If you understand that emotion, pain is more inward, anger is more outward. However, both frequencies of hatred or dosa, right? So the pain you don't feel as much because the focus is on the great object, which is what? The anger. Right? Now you see, both of them exist. Both of them exist. That is what in here it speaks about. I'm sorry, my English. Here it speaks about now these very great objects to great, slight, very slight. Right? Let's move on. Is that clear? In this context, the words great, maha, and slight, paritta, are not used with reference to the size or grossness of the object, but to the force of its impact on consciousness. Right? But this is, remember, for example, when you're in deep samadhi, however loud the sound might be, you might not hear it. But if you take or if you concern yourself with grossness, the sound is grosser than the samadhi. However, this is not about the grossness. This is about the focus that you do give to the object. Understood? Yeah? Okay. But to the force of its impact on consciousness. Even though a large or gross visible object is present at the eye door, if the sensitive matter of the eye is weak or the object impinges on the eye after it has passed its prime, or the light is dim, the object will not make a distinct impression and thus will fall into the categories of slight or very slight. Understood? Any questions about that? That is quite clear, right? I mean, that is very insightful, isn't it? We think that what we see, hear, smell, taste, and all of that is as we know, as we understand, but that sentence itself breaks it down, right? Dependent upon the existing factors of the environment, the objects that you take from the environment differ. So it is not really up to you. What you do is you put the story on the object that has now come in. That is what is up to you. That is why we are all here. That is where ignorance plays its part. Right? All right, moving on.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes, Susan.
So for me, like I'm blind. So what I see, I mean, not totally blind. So what I see is of a different perception of from what other people see. How do we relate to this?
So it is in the same way with the effect that is upon your pasada rupa, your visually impaired nature is what then gets you, right? So that is very similar to any, whether when a light is dim or if those two positions are very similar. Both are obstructs of rupa upon the mind. Both are obstructs upon materiality, which obstructs the proper knowledge of the object. But then we use the word proper. Susan, did I answer your question?
Not really. So let me just give another example. So when I look at people's faces, they all look like ghosts to me. No offense, but so all my friends begin to look like ghosts to me. So what does that mean? I mean, ghostly, you know, or art faces, like Picasso drew everybody's faces.
Yeah. So here the image is hindered by the physical attribute. That's it. Right? So that is all there is. That hindrance, just like if a light is dim, I will not be able to see an object in the room. Similarly here, when the prasada rupa is affected in a certain way, injured or wounded or whatever it is, then the perception of the object is also hindered.
Okay.
That is all it is, Susan, right? That is all it is. But if we take that a little bit further, one may ask, what is then the true perception of the object? Is there a true perception of the object, one would ask?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I follow. Yes. Thank you.
Is there a true perception of the object? Now, the true perception of the object, according to Dhamma, let me ask this question from you. What do you think? Is there a true perception of the object?
I think it's in the eye of the beholder. The true perception of the object is in the eye of the seeing mind. The eye of the beholder.
Not really. Then that is supporting that would support the view of Atma, because if we say it is in the eye of the beholder, is the beholder always right?
That's the point. No, exactly. The eye of the you look beautiful to me, to someone else, because you look beautiful to someone else, but to me I can't see you. You look like half a face. So the eye of the beholder.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So what do the others think?
It's not.
When you have a problem with the eye sensitivity or the chakku prasada,
yeah,
right? That means imagine that it's not functioning properly, but you will compensate that deficiency by being more sort of efficient sota. And then ultimately your perception will be corrected with the help of these other consciousness, like sota and mainly sota actually, because when you hear, right, then by having a voice listening to you, probably you build a better picture in your mind. So the perception will be more advanced than just getting the perception from the chakku prasada.
However, the image that you then build, right?
Yeah.
The image that you then build,
yeah,
how is that image truer than the image that we see?
It can be different.
The true perception is not what we see. That's our own perception.
It's only a concept.
Okay, one person, please. Okay, Dil, you go first.
So the question you asked, is that a true perception? That's not the true perception, because that's big. If your eye sensitivity is weak, then you see it because somebody else will see it different. If it's a true perception, then that object should be up there for everybody the same way. So it can't
so
be a true perception.
What is your concluding thought then?
The question that you ask, if somebody were to see what you see and what the way you perceive, is not the true picture.
So is there something called a true picture?
No, it is a concept. It's only a concept.
There is nothing called a true picture.
Yeah.
That's right.
No,
Yes.
Yeah, there's a concept.
For example, like Susan mentioned about the way that she sees. I mean, some of you all are wearing glasses, some of you might be colorblind, some of you may not be able to see in the dark or drive in the dark. You know, we all have these certain things, isn't it? Right? So then what is true? There is nothing as that. It is again the construct that we built. It is again the construct that we build through the senses, right?
So in other words, Bhante, the perception is individual. So everyone has got their own perception. You can't have absolute perception or universal perception. It's a perception by individual. I see it, you as a different person, like Mala sitting here and looking at you. So it's two different perceptions. So individual perceptions. Perceptions are individual actually.
Yeah, I mean, that is the basis of philosophy as well, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? The ability to see one thing in different perspectives and logics, isn't it? But
Yeah.
the thing is, in the Dhamma, we go a bit ahead to say there is no true perception because of the mechanisms in place which help one perceive that which one perceives. The object. Right? So when you look at the same tree from different sides, we see different pictures of the tree. So then to say that this image of the tree is the image of the tree is wrong. There is nothing as the image of the tree.
Because it's a concept.
So a person cannot be good or bad, really. It all depends on what circumstances are there, what is allowed to that moment. Right? That is exactly the reason why this question is actually asked. Why doesn't the Buddha blame and hold final judgments over people? Because the Buddha understands the arising causal realities of each and every circumstance. When these circumstances are present, this person is bad. When these circumstances are present, this person is good. So then which circumstance do you want to take of that person? That is also a construct of you.
Yeah.
Right? That is what we attempt to realize in not now. This is, we are talking in theory. This must be realized in practice. Right? This must be realized in practice, and that is made able through meditation. That is made able through meditation. Okay, back to the book. Right. Therefore, the terms great object and slight object, etc., indicate not the size of the object, but the number of process chittas, chitta, viti chitta, that arise from the moment the object enters the avenue of the sense door until the moment the presentation of the object to the consciousness ceases. Right? What does this mean? This means when an object arises, some objects require many chitta vitis to take place, or flows of chitta processes to take place. Some require lesser, right? Some require lesser. Depending on the amount of processes required to process and finish processing that object, that is what determines the great object and the slight object. Understood? Any doubts? No? We will be going through it again as well, right? Okay. A similar principle distinguishes the presentation of objects in the mind, though into the clear and obscure. So similar within the clear and the obscure as well. Panchadwara Viti, very great object. 5-door processors, very great object. How is the intensity in the presentation of the object determined? One mind moment consists of 3 sub-moments. Upada, piti, bhanga. Arising, presence, and dissolution. The duration of the material phenomena consists of 17 mind moments. Right? Now, what does this mean? Now, there are 17 mind moments. Right? Of these 17 mind moments, one mind moment has 3 sub-moments. One mind moment has 3 sub-moments. Yes, Dil, what is it?
But you came to the bottom of 153, then 5-door process the Panchadwara. And then where are you reading? Not 154 and 2.
Yes.
Yes,
Unless
Anna.
we go on top.
Top.
Right. We missed out the first sentence. Okay, Bhante. Right. I'm there. Thank you.
Right. So if we are to take one mind moment, which is referred to as a chitta biti, I'm sorry, chittakkana. Chittakkana, chitta,
Yeah.
kana. Chitta is consciousness, kana is moment, right? A mind moment consists of three sub-movements, which is the arising, possessing, and passing away, dissolution, right? The duration of material phenomena consists of 7 mind moments. So when one mind moment is the three sub-movements of arising, possessing, and dissolution, this into 17 times is the lifespan of one rupa, or the one materiality. So when a materiality arises and passes away, 17 mind moments have arisen and passed away. Do you understand? Everyone clear? Yeah, if there is anyone who doesn't understand, please bring it up. Yeah.
Bhante, this is related to the Aramana, or the object, right? Object is a material, and that object can survive as an object in the mind only for 17 mind moments.
No.
Yeah, that may be the reason why the consciousness is limited to 17 mind moments.
The reason the consciousness is limited, it's not the fact that the consciousness is limited to 17 mind moments. It's the niyama which allows a process of cognition to arise and pass away to that extent. Now, if what you said was true, right, then every mental process should be based upon a rupa which is not true.
Okay.
No, this talks about this here talks about the association between mind and matter, because there is clearly an association of mind and matter, right? And during which time the body sort of endures for longer than the mind does. Right? Endures for longer than the mind does. So this is not to say that the body is an object of the mind, because there are processes where the body is not the object, or materiality is not the object. You understand?
Yeah.
Right? So the reason why this process of being 17, I believe it is more based on Chittanyama, based on the processes of Jamana over anything else. Because if you take it, if you look, and now we will come to it, we are not going to confuse the others too much, but if you look at the process, the whole process seems to go around or sort of be centered upon the fact or the action of Jamana. Isn't it? That is where the true processing of the object happens. While the positions before the Jamana seems like more the presentation of the object to the Jamana, isn't it? Karma is created at the Jamana moment. Right? So let's come to that. The others, don't worry about it. We are coming to that place. Okay. All right. The five sense objects enter the avenue of the five sense doors at the stage of presence, when one or several mind moments have passed. Right? The five sense objects enter the avenue of the, the five sense objects enter. Now, what are the five sense objects? They are talking about Pancha Dwara Viti. right? Mind processors which have taken the objects brought in by the 5 sensory doors distinctively, right? Distinctively, right? They enter into the avenue at the stage of present when one of the several mind moments have passed. The 5 sense objects enter the avenue of the 5 sense doors at the stage of presence when one or several mind moments have passed. What does that mean? Damsiri?
Is it actually the objects takes after first 3, well, the first Babanga Chalana and Babanga Upacheda, they are not taking the object. They are getting the effect of the object. So actually objects enters at the next thought moment, which is Panchadva Rajana. Is this the correct way that I understand?
Yes, it is actually.
Yeah.
Because what happens is when an object arises, it takes one mind moment for the object to mature and mature enough to the level where it can now cause a difference in the chitta viti, right?
Yeah.
For example, now if we will leave it at that and move on, right? We will wait until we come to the process.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So the 5 sense objects, so we'll read from before, the duration of material phenomena consists of 17 such mind moments, right? That is the time the materiality endures compared to the mind moments. The 5 sense objects enter the avenue of the 5 sense doors at the stage of presence, when one or several mind movements have passed, right? When several mind movements have passed. Therefore, if a visible form as object, having passed one mind moment, enters the avenue of the eye, the life continuum vibrates for 2 mind moments and is arrested. Then a 5-door adverting consciousness arises and ceases, adverting to the same visible object, visible form as object. Immediately after, they are arise and cease. They are arisers and cease in due order. The eye consciousness seeing the form, receiving consciousness receiving it, investigation consciousness investigating, determining consciousness determining it. Right? All right. Go down to page number 155, please. Right now, you look at that chart. I will read what we just read again for you. You look at that chart. All right. The 5 sense objects enter the avenue of the 5 sense doors at the stage of presence when one or several mind moments have passed. Therefore, if a visible form as object, now look at the chart, having passed one mind moment, one enters the avenue of the eye. The life continuum vibrates for 2 mind moments and is arrested. So what is arrested? The life continuum is arrested. That is 2 and 3. Then a 5-door adverting consciousness arises and ceases, adverting to that same visible form as object. That's 4. Immediately after there arises and ceases and arise and cease in due order. I consciousness seeing that form, receiving consciousness, receiving it, investigating consciousness, investigating it, determining consciousness, determining it, right? Following this, any one of the 29 sense sphere javanas which has gained the right conditions runs its course, generally for 7 mind moments. After the javanas, 2 registration resultants arise accordingly. Then comes the subsidence into the life continuum, right? That is a powerful Chakkudwara Viti, right? That is a powerful Chakkudwara Viti. This is by which we really get to know a powerful object. So right now, when you are looking at the screen or listening to the sound of my voice or looking at the book and reading and understanding whatever it is that you are reading, and you're putting all of this information together, and when you understand, when you are able to process information, even though you don't understand, yet you know what you're trying to understand, what happens? It is this viti which is processing in your mind. You get it? Right? It is this viti which is processing in your mind, regardless of whether you understand the lesson or not. Regardless, because this is not about understanding the lesson, this is about taking the object, right? This is about taking the object. Are you able to take the object? That is what this concerns, right? But depending upon how well you now understand, the javanas will create, the power of the javanas will differ. Right? So now when you are, for example, meditating, right? Or that is when now we might all have meditated for the same amount of hours, same amount of days, same experience and all of that. But yet, due to the differences in our cognitive abilities or understanding of Dhamma or the hindrances, the power of the javanas are different. Right? The power of the javanas are different. Understood?
And one quick question, Bhante.
Yeah, there we go.
Now, these viti from the Panchadwara, all one viti happened only for one door. Not for all doors at once, it doesn't happen. That's how I understand. One viti for one door. Chakku prasada one.
Viti for?
One at a time.
Door,
At
one
a time.
eyes, one nose, another one, like
No.
that. One.
No.
It all happened. That's
No,
what I
one
want.
at a time.
All right, let me explain.
That's what I want.
So it is not this. Now, if we just take this viti that you are seeing in page number 155,
Right, yes.
only carries a minute amount of data.
All right.
Right? Now, for example, Devika, now I am looking at you on the screen.
Yes.
The first thing that I am to take is your bodily appearance.
Yes.
Second is the color. Third is the name. Right? In that way, it goes up to 7 processes where then I put everything together and I know, okay, this is Devika.
Yes.
Right?
That I understand.
If I am used to it. Now, for example, now just when you say excuse me or just when you say X, I know that's Devika speaking.
Yeah.
Because why? We've heard your sound and that it is familiar now. Right? Now it doesn't take as much as 7 mind moments to know that it's Devika.
Right. Okay.
You get it?
Understand. Yes.
Now the Buddha has the ability, it seems, to cognize within 3 to 5 mind moments an object. That is quite brilliant because that allows a person to understand. That sort of shows the ability of the Buddha when it comes to that amount of processing. But it also is confusing in a way because you imagine, okay, how is the Buddha able to really put together an object? Because it is not about the understanding, but rather the putting together of different objects. So, you know what I mean?
Yes. Understood.
It is also maybe, so surely that is a question for someone who knows more Abhidhamma than I do. Right?
Oh,
Bhante,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Bhante, can you explain?
Yeah. Write down that question and ask someone.
Can you explain now? Well, say take for example the actual case we discussed when you are doing the consciousness. Yeah. So a boy see an apple, right? And he had a greed rooted consciousness, right? And so now he has got a greed rooted, well, say number one consciousness, right? Now, where that consciousness appear in this process? Greed, hate, rooted consciousness appear in the Jamana?
Yeah, I think so.
It does. Okay. We come to the stream of Babanga, 5do, IDO, receiving. Okay. It is in the stage of Manodvara Avajana, right?
Yeah.
Now you have the split. Is it Yoniso Mansikara or Ioniso Mansikara?
Okay, yeah.
Depending upon the Yoniso or Ioniso, what happens? The Jamana is then maneuvered.
Yeah.
Right?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's not the first series of chittas, you have to pass quite a number of chittas. The second one will be the Manodvarajana. And so in one of these Manodvarajana, you actually balance it out.
Yeah.
Using your manasikara, whether you are going to do a bad thing or you are avoiding a bad thing.
What is the... No, we have to be very specific. I know what you're trying to say and you're correct, but we have to be more specific than that, Damsiri.
Okay, yeah.
If we say now, okay, I want everyone to focus. Now, Damsiri was correct, but he was not absolutely correct, right? Because if we say that it is dependent upon that, now that is where your past comes into play. Right? That is where your past comes into play. Now look here. I might scold someone, but the probability of me taking something and stabbing that person, it's possible. However, the possibility is low, yet the possibility is there. Right? But to a person who has already done it, the possibility is higher than me actually doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the Yoniso or Ioniso, the right, what is the English for Yoniso, Ioniso? Right attention.
Right attention and wrong attention.
Okay. Right attention and wrong attention. Right? Right attention and wrong attention determines where the javanas are going to take or how the javanas are going to treat the object. Whether you are going to go by hand or whether you're going to put it in the mixer, basically.
Yeah.
Right? Depending on that, now it will work with the object. But now when the path is selected, after the selection of the path, it is in the javanas that decide the extent to which you will go.
Yeah.
That is where past experiences, conditions, data, manifestations, the environment, cause and effect, all of these things come into play.
Yeah.
Right? That is where all of those things come into play. Now, where are all of these things, you may ask it, Passe. Now what should appear in your mind is, okay, where are all of these things? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where is the cause and the effect? Where is the troubled mind? Where is all of that? That is a feature of the mind, like memory. Right? Now, for example, we know, okay, you will go to a monastery next week, right? When you go to a monastery and you're going to stay in the monastery, the first week in the monastery, you will remember the things of the prior week at home. Maybe, let's say you do. But the second week in the monastery, now you remember things from the prior week, which was when you first came to the monastery. You get it now, right? Now, because the conditions are changed. Now, where is this condition? This condition is, you know, what is known as Chittanyama. What is known as, this is the same as asking where is Kamma, right? It is like memory. It is like the polar magnetic waves in the south and the north of your body. It is there. It is a feature and part of the mind, right? It is a feature and part of the mind, right? So it is very much like, for example, the genetics in our blood, right? The genetics, when you reproduce, just like you give those genetics to the child that you produce, and that child, and then we have this ancestral heritage or lineage in the physicality of our existence. Similarly, the mind, when passed from one moment to the other, carries a mental gene which has all of these data and information. It's quite astonishing, don't you think?
Yes.
You know, the ability, and that is where this omniscience, right? That is where this omniscience is, when one is able to tap into that ability, right? When one is able to tap into that ability. Now, for example, now, you know, let's take ourselves when we didn't have Dhamma, you know, when we were teenagers and quite petty, and, you know, and all of this, when we were living our life without Dhamma and without awareness, you know, think about how little things you took, you know, you made it so big and great, you know, things which you wouldn't even bother about today, you know, all these things that we thought about, right? Now you see, now you have growth. That growth has been made possible through that lineage of experience that have been brought together, right? Same thing, right? That is where this processing of data happens. But remember, now what has Dhamma done? It has matured you. It has given you that openness of mind, right? Whereas we still see sometimes people of, you know, even of a mature 50, 60 years old, still like small girls and boys, you know, still shallow lives, you know, nothing above materiality, everything is about materiality, right? We see people like this, very, very shallow lives, right? So it is not about, it is then how has this openness of mind been created, right? So the Dhamma, whatever influences that we have been influenced by, right? Which has opened up our hearts. So in that way, this is a part of the features of the mind, qualities of the mind. Understood? Any questions? Pushpa?
Bhante,
Yes.
is it something to do with conditioning of the mind, or how we have conditioned our mind?
What?
Due to past experiences, etc., we have conditioned our mind regarding certain objects.
What are you referring to? Yes, conditioning of the mind, I get that.
Yeah.
But leading to what? Are we speaking about? Is it the memory or the karmic inheritance? What are we speaking about?
The process, thinking process, or is the conditioning also plays a part, isn't it?
The process is not a condition it is a niyama,
Ah,
a law of cognition, the law of cognition. For example, like the weather. Now we spoke about how, when the sun is out, how the water of the sea, it evaporates, turns into water vapor, condenses into the sky, forms clouds, and when there's friction between the clouds, it creates. And when the when the clouds are heavy with this water vapor, and and then it falls back down. If clouds, sort of the negative and the positive static currents of the clouds, when they come into contact with each other, it creates lightning. We know all of these things, isn't it? Right? Now, what is that? That is niyama, you see. In the same way, that will continue to happen, just like how the blood flows in the body, or how, for example, the white blood cells attack any virus. It is right, the white blood cells attack the viruses and all of that, though that is niyama, right? Just like that, the processes of the mind is niyama. How memory is maintained is niyama. Niyama is law, right? Law is not to say, this is the law of the Buddha or law of God. No, this is how the mechanisms have or run, right? This is how the mechanism runs. This is how the machine is made. Do you get it? Anyone has a question on that part? Because that is also actually quite important to understand.
Is it explained in the terms of Patthana? Because when I read another write-up,
Patthana would definitely explain, because Patthana definitely explains the way by which, Rupa and the dependence, codependence, the mutual tendencies and dependence. It does explain all of these things as well. Right? So it is. So those things, yes, it goes down to those laws which do condition the rising of these phenomena, for sure. Yes, of course.
And Bhante, the other thing is actually in one write-up I saw, the actual the karmic data is transferred from one chittaksana to the other chittaksana. So it's not sort of a transferred from one chittaviti to the other chittaviti. It's actually done in chittakshana. So when the next chittakshana appears, so you hand over the key to the next one. It's like almost like a taking over.
The law of Upanishya Pachya.
It
is under the law of Upanishya Pachya. So what happens, what Dhamsiri is saying is, when one mind arises, now remember, what actually exists is one present moment. Right? It is one present moment that exists. Now, in this present moment, due to the conditions of chitta, arises and passes away. But don't think it's like this. It's not like that. Right? You understand what I mean? It's not like that. At this point, you become aware. No. It forms, it dissolutes. It forms, its dissolution. Forms, dissolution. Right? Only dependent upon the factors of that moment. Right? The factors of that moment. Right? That is the important thing to understand about it. So it is not as if we are sort of that the process is already made. No, the process is made there and then. Right? So it is not as if, when we talk about the Chittaviti, for example, in page number 155, now this Chittaviti that we have on the book, it is not as if, okay, this Chittaviti is there and we are following along the line. No. There and then that consciousness arises by way of Chittanyama, the law of consciousness, and it passes away. Right? During the process of Jamana, that static, electric-like cognitive process, which now molds, changes, creates behavioral changes, differences in behavioral ability, also is conditioned moment by moment. Right? Also is conditioned moment by moment. Now we are only seeing one frame here. We are going to see all the other frames to come. right? So this is not the only frame which is available to us. There are more frames by which the mind arises and passes away, remember, right? By which the mind arises and passes away. Any questions? Pushpa, did I answer your question, Pushpa?
Yes.
Sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe the conditioning also may be playing a part in the process
Of
thinking process.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now it is because of the conditioning that a person who is used to killing, when instigated, would take that option. A person who is decent and brought up with proper mannerism, and a person who has a lot to lose, will not even harbor the thought, right? So then it is because of conditioning, isn't it? It is because of the conditioning, and because of that prior conditioning that we have laid, right, the different options appears in our minds, right? When we go through life and when we have gone through so many problems and difficulties, now let's take a corporate atmosphere, right? A person with experience might know different ways to get out of a problem, while a person who is new might really struggle at first, you know. I think we have all gone through that, haven't we? Right? We have all gone through that. When we are, when we don't have much experience, we get into a lot of trouble. I think in all of our careers, we have at one point gone through a lot of trouble. But as we mature and when we know how to protect ourselves and be careful, knowing the reality of circumstance, then we know better. Right? Now the conditioning has improved and changed. Right? But the thing is, we must remind ourselves this is only conditioning. Or else what happens is, however good you are still a hardcore person who believes in that. So what does that create? More foundations into grasping the world. So narcissism, right? And anytime now, the more that you have that connection, if your position is put off or you are pushed off, now you will not be able to handle that. Now you will have a lot to lose, and you will be willing to do more things to maintain your reputation or whatnot. Right? And that happens, isn't it? The things that people do to sometimes protect their reputations. Right? Not knowing the reality of the fact that, the world changes. Yeah. All right. So shall we move on? Any other questions that we have?
Bhante, I have a
Yes,
little
Chandra.
question. So by what you are saying, could it be possible that wise attention and unwise attention can also be conditioned?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. This is all a conditioned process.
Okay.
Right?
That gives me hope.
Absolutely. So that
Thank
is why Dhamma Patipada, right, changes the affect Dhamma Patipada, which is, I'm sorry, Susan, Dhamma Patipada is the Dhammic way of life, changes and molds and prepares us for that Dhammic lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? That Dhammic lifestyle. Now, some people can do it or come to it easier than others. However, this lifestyle demands some sort of commitment, test and sort of trying for you to perfect that way. You can't just decide, okay, I'm going to be a Dhammic person after midnight tomorrow. Like you decide, okay, I'm going to be a vegan or a vegetarian, right? You can't do that. It takes a bit of maneuvering, trying and testing, and a lot of failure for you to find the right groove and pattern of this practice. Right? Yeah. The right groove and pattern of this practice. That is very important. Right? So yes.
Thank you, Bhante.
Very much conditioned. Right? Now it is like, for example, now You know, before you had children, all of you might have been very sort of happy go for, you know, sort of fun and, you know, all, you know, people like that. But you got married, you settled down, you had children. Now, all of a sudden, your lifestyle changed in that 9 months, no?
10 months.
So disconnected from that. In that period of 9 to 10 months, right, you prepared, mentally changed your lifestyle completely from that fun, easy-going sort of, you know, relaxed couple to a more serious and, you know, to sort of now prepare for childbirth and sort of raising a child. Now you see how Yoniso and Ayoniso Manasikara now changed. Right? That is why the Buddha brings in aspects of the Devaduta Sutra, the knowledge of the hells and suffering, death, impermanent suffering, non-self, dependent origination. All these arising and passing attributes are spoken of so widely to teach a person that whatever you cling on to, it passes away. Even you pass away, and everything that you hold and dear with time will arise and will pass away, if not with time, through death, surely. You know, that is why it is brought to motivate one to bring that essence and sense of, because with that, why would we let go? For what? You know, why? If we were to stick to, okay, there is nothing called, you know, there is nothing as an afterlife, you know, we live as much as, you know, all of these things, you know, then what is the purpose of letting go and doing all of this? Just enjoy the little time that we have. Right? So why the Buddha has elaborated so much is to give you the sense to change or to commit oneself to that Yonso Mansikara, or the right attention practice. You know, we must be good to people. Now, for example, parents, right? When they realize, you know, their children must take care of them when they're older, you're very nice to the children, right? You're very nice to the children. You're very sort of complacent and all of that, especially, you know, I mean, it's also quite sad sometimes, because sometimes you really want to tell them off, but you can't, you know, and it is quite sad. But you see, right? That is very similar in that way again, right? Dependent because of that thing that you may lose or gain. Again, we change. It all comes down to how important is the result to you. In meditation, when you close your eyes and you're meditating and your mind says, open your eyes, stop this nonsense, the commitment that you have to the wholesome result is what keeps your eyes closed and you disciplined. Or else there is nothing why should you just get up and go and have some fun? You know, that is why having the determination for why are we doing this is important to realize, right? Before your practice or through your practice. Yeah. Okay. Coming back. So let's look at the chart together. First, we have the stream of Babanga, right? The stream of Babanga. Now, usually, a stream of Babanga exists before and after a Chitta Viti. A stream of Babanga exists. And this stream of Babanga, now, during the time of the stream of Babanga, when an object enters, right, the Babanga becomes past Babanga. This is Dhamsiri, now what you said, right? An object takes one mind moment to mature enough where now it can affect the mind. Now look at the chart. Past Babanga Vibrational Babanga is that moment of possessing of the object. And then a resting Babanga is where the object gave fruit. And now it is taken as object through the Chittaviti. Right? So it takes one mind moment for the object. This is said by Lady Seado actually. It takes one mind moment for the object to mature enough in the mind to now give fruit. Right? Now, what is the difference between past Bhavanga, vibrational Bhavanga, and arresting Bhavanga? Bhavanga, Chalana, Bhavanga, Upacheda. What is the difference? It is the same thing. It is only to denote the weakening or the shattering of Bhavanga. Understood? To denote the arising and the shattering of the Babanga, that is what is denoted by Babanga, Babanga Chalana, and Babanga Upacheda. Right? Babanga, Babanga Chalana, and Babanga Upacheda. So it is not anything different. There's nothing more in it. Right? Then we come to what? Now, 5 door adverting, Panchadvara Avachana. Panchadvara Avajana is where now the mind or the mind adverts to the 5 sensory doors or that specific door within the body. There then appears, now this is very important. Everyone focus on the book, right? Now look, what did I just tell you? There is a past Bhavanga, vibrational Bhavanga, and arresting Bhavanga. It takes one mind moment for the object to be clear. And that causes the Bhavanga to shatter. Right? Or the mind to awaken from that break that it is on. Right? Think of a deep sleep and a person awakening from deep sleep, for example. Then what happens? Then the 5 do advent. Now the mind directs its attention to where an object appears at the door. Picture it in your mind. An object now appears at the door, the mind door. Now the mind adverts or shifts to that specific door, whether it's the eye, nose, the body, the ears, wherever it is, right? Now, specifically here, let's talk about the eye because it's eye consciousness meeting, right? And then there has appeared the eye consciousness, right? There arise. Now, can there arise? Can there arise in the Hadevattu, in the heart base? Can there be a mind that is arising, and at the eye also there's a mind that is arising? No, one mind per moment.
Correct.
Right? One mind, every moment has just one mind. Because of that, the mind or the heart base adverts. The eye, there's an object that has been presented. The eye consciousness arises, and that eye consciousness is now being processed to the receiving, investigating, determining, right? Now from the determining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? After the determining, there is a Jamana. From the 9th to the 15th moment, there are the 7 Javanas which arise and pass away. Now, what are the Javana Chittas? Who remembers what the Jamana Chittas are?
The other ones, karmic.
The sensual Javana Chittas?
Mala?
The sensual ones or the whole lot?
The whole lot.
There are 55 of them.
Yeah, 55 Javanas.
Okay. Then now,
That's the 12 unwholesome and 1 smile producing in the rootless. and beautiful, wholesome, and functional. So those are the sensuous ones. And then the 18 sublime, and the 8 supramundane.
Great, amazing, wonderful, Noeline.
Thank you.
Noeline,
Applause.
I'm studying hard, Bhante.
Noeline gets the brownie points now. Noeline is the teacher's pet now, not Damsri. Damsri lost it. All right. All right. So those are the javanas. Now, what does the javanas say? The javanas, right? Now, okay, Noeline gave us what the javanas are. What is the commonality in all of these javanas?
The wholesome and the unwholesome chittas arise there.
No more brownies for you now.
Oh, sorry. I thought you asked me.
No. Others, tell me, what is the commonality between all of these javanas? Why are these consciousnesses known as javana consciousnesses?
Is it because that's where the karma is generated?
How is the karma generated?
I think you form like a liking or dislike of the object.
The action.
The action.
These are consciousnesses. So you're correct, Rivini. These are the consciousnesses that karma is developed. How is karma developed? These are the consciousnesses that directly act with the object. Right? Now, did Noeline mention any vipaka chittas? No. They were all karma chittas. Karma creating chittas. Right? That is what has led to all of those then being javanas. Right? Understood? Yes. Any questions regarding the javanas? Very important. Don't be shy. Ask anything that you want.
Bhante, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, Lakshman, go ahead.
I thought the supramundane chittas don't have any karma producing.
Who's going to answer that question? Who can answer that question? The rebirth linking, Lakshman thinks the rebirth. I'm sorry, not the rebirth linking. The
supramundane.
The supramundane chittas don't have karma. Who can answer that question?
That is action.
They can, Bhante, create karma, but they won't have a resultant of it.
Yes, they can create karma. It is the energy of the supramundane chitta that actually raises you from a mundane person to a supramundane person. That demands so much of energy, right? That demands so much of energy. The only thing is, there is no karma that creates a rebirth linking, right? There is no karma which attaches you to a rebirth linking. Got it, Lakshman?
Yes, Bhante. So in these javanas, in the chittas, supramundane chittas can produce the energy. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Now, Palace of Mahapati, right? What is Palace of Mahapati in English? Does anyone know? The Palace of Mahapati is a meditation on the fruits of enlightenment. I guess that might be another better word, but Palace of Mahapati is where, for example, you achieve, let's say, a Sotapanna stage, right? Or the first stream entry. And then you can go into meditation to live out or experience the phala, the fruit, again and again and again. So what recurs? Let's then, how would the Jamana be then? What is the recurring consciousness of the Jamana? It's the phala chitta of the respective attainment. Right? So for example, if it is the stream entry fruit consciousness or the resultant consciousness, right? The fruit consciousness, that becomes, right? That becomes the vibrating, that vibrates through the Jamana up until it is finished. What if it is a jhana consciousness? What vibrates? The consciousness of that respective jhana. Got it? Right? So, Lakshman, it
Yes, thank
can
you,
be.
Thank
Because
you.
you see, that is what gives you that experience.
Thank
Right?
you, Bhante.
The
Yeah,
only
thank
thing that we know is, the thing is, now, we spoke about this actually, a arahant creates karma, however, not karma that leads to rebirth.
Okay.
Because think about it.
Yes.
Karma, the word karma, we've spoken about this. The word karma is made of out of the root kam, K-A-M. Kam is action. Action is where now? The javanas. Look at the javana. That is where your karma is. Because that is where the action is created. That is where the action is loved. For this, now think of the doctors, think of how the spine, the neurosystem, right, creates action and sort of puts out the chemicals necessary for bodily movement. The static currents within the brain and the nervous system, which allows for all these movements to occur and happen. Think of that. Very similar. We don't know whether that is exactly what this is referring to, right? However, it is very similar to the javanas. It is that electricity, that current, that static that is created by that consciousness, which allows for verbal and bodily intimidation. Verbal and bodily intimidation. Yes, Dave.
Bhante, I don't know if I heard this wrong or I understood it wrong. So we said that there were 55 javanas, and what is common is that their karma is developed in that. That I followed. Now then you said, when we were adding up to how to find these 55 chittas, so we said, right, there are 12 unwholesome chittas, and we said there are 21 wholesome chittas. Did you say there were no resultants? Because there are 4 resultants, the supramundane fruits, and the 18 functions. Did I hear you saying, or I heard it wrong, that you said there were no resultants? There are 4 resultants, and those are the supramundane fruits. If you look at page 128, Bhante, right on top, it gives you the function of jhavanas.
128.
128. If you look at the second paragraph there,
Yeah.
the function of jhana. Look at this. The 55 chittas that function as jhavanas are, yes, the 12 unwholesome chittas, correct? The 21 wholesome chittas, and the 4 resultants. And these 4 resultants are the supramundane fruits.
Yeah.
And then the 18 functionals.
Yeah, hold on there.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know. The book says that, so I don't.
Javana, unwholesome consciousnesses. The receiving, yes, the receive is the smiling, wholesome. Where are you seeing it, Dev? There is
page 128, that paragraph. I maybe understand.
Okay, come to the chart. Come to the chart, 127. Right? 100. So number 13, Javana. You
Yes.
have the unwholesome consciousnesses 12.
12. Yes.
You have the smiling consciousness 1.
Yes.
Sobana
8.
sadharana, wholesome,
8.
right?
Yeah.
Resultant not there.
And then yes, yes. Functional 8. Yes.
And then wholesome.
Wholesome.
And then resultant not there.
Yes.
The functional again there. And supramundane.
And supram. But look at this paragraph on the next page. Look at the paragraph. The function of the javana, the 55 chittas that function as javanas are the 12 wholesome chittas, 21 that we know, no, sorry, the 12 unwholesome, the 21 wholesome. Then the 4 resultants.
Yeah.
Which are the supramundane fruits.
Okay. The 4 resultants here refer to the result. Okay, this is a little bit different from the ahetuk resultants.
Yes.
Right. So this is so we must understand the difference here, right? So the unwholesome resultants the whole, okay, we'll talk about the supramundane. When the fruit, the path and the fruit occur, the path is what leads to enlightenment. The fruit, that is why we often refer to the supramundane chittas as magga and phala, not as wholesome and resultant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, yes. I understand. So actually when they say here the four resultants, they are referred to the phala, four chittas, the supramundane phala.
Yeah, now we want to explain it.
Yes. Explain, Bhante.
Yeah. So here it refers, although it is a resultant, this resultant is something that we can achieve and attain to, just like we would achieve and attain to a jhana consciousness, a wholesome jhana consciousness. It is a speciality. It's not really a speciality, we would say. It is only a resultant. It is only a resultant when it comes to. No. That is also wrong.
Bhante.
Wait. Put again. It is a resultant which only appears to, it is okay. It is only a resultant when it comes to the phala chitta. No, the magga chitta.
Yes, that's it. The path chitta. Yeah, the path chittas.
It is only a resultant which is considered a resultant when it comes to the magga chitta.
Yes, that's path chitta.
But after the magga chitta arises, the magga chitta never arises again. Right? The path consciousness only arises once in one samsara, right? Cycle of rounds of rebirth and death. The path consciousness then acts as a wholesome, not a wholesome consciousness, but like a wholesome consciousness, which can be adverted to. Right? So in that way, it differs from a usual resultant consciousness. Understood?
Bhante, if we use the Pali term vipaka, so this fruition is not a vipaka, but you enjoy the achievement there, right?
It is a vipaka of the magga chitta.
Okay, yeah.
It is a vipaka of only the magga chitta.
Magga chitta, okay.
Right? That is so. That is why I said it is only a vipaka or resultant with relation to the path consciousness. But on its own, it acts as a sort of it acts as a wholesome consciousness.
Yeah.
Right? It would be wrong to say wholesome. That is why it acts like a wholesome consciousness. Okay? Coming back.
Yeah, clear.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah. What is the page we want, please?
155.
155. Okay. So do we have any questions? Did everyone understand that phala explanation that we just did? Everyone understand?
But Bhante, can I just ask one other question? Page 155 on that chart. Now you said the Babanga Charana Babanga and the Pacheda Babanga was just only one. But then on the page, now the stream of Babanga is the first one.
Yeah.
And then the past Babanga, that the Babanga Chitta is there marked as one. So there are three moments. Then the vibration of Babanga and the rest. They are put 1, 2, 3, they are put 3 moments, but you are saying it's only one moment. And these chittakana, and these mind moments is numbers from 1 to 17. Or am I thinking it's wrong? They just numbered them.
The 3 moments signify the sub moments.
Right. So the 1, 2, 3 are sub moments. Then 4, 5, 6, 7. So then it
wait. What are you? Okay, no. It is 3 chittakanas, right? The 3 stars that you see under the number are sub moments, but it is 3 different minds.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's three chittakkana, three mind moments, right? Because Bhante, you said there was only one. So I was wondering why they put three there, because they put 1, 2, 3 moments. Then the fourth is when you get the adverting, Fido adverting, and the eye consciousness comes on the fifth, and that's how it goes. So there are actually three there, Bhante, not one.
I did not say that there is one.
Yes.
Maybe I have wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well. Okay. No. It is three. It is three.
Yes.
Because
Okay.
it is three. It is now, for example, like the stream of Babanga. Like the stream of Babanga, the Babanga, one Babanga experience is affected with each. So it takes 3 moments of the Babanga for us to completely come out. Okay. All right. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Yes.
Bhante, can you explain the now when you have these various chittakkanas, now eye consciousness definitely occurring in the chakku prasada or eye base, yeah, and the rest are in the mind base.
Yeah.
So including the Fido adverting, is it in the mind or?
Including the 5-door adverting, is it in the mind?
Mind-o.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go to this. Where would this be? Where do chittas arise? Shall we go to that chart?
Yeah.
Where is that chart? Dil, do you know?
147.
147. Yes. So now let's see what consciousnesses arise. Right? 147. Now let's just look at the eye base, because that is what we are concerned now.
Yeah.
In the eye base, only the eye consciousness arises. And in the heart base, right? In the heart base, A and heart base always and sometimes you see all the other javanas are found within the heart A and S. That is the heart base sometimes and always.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Right? Let's go to doors, the consciousnesses which arise at the doors. Where is that chart? Does anyone know where that chart is?
Object. Doors.
There you go, 133. Right? Now, when we come to the doors, right? When we come to the doors, you find in the eye door. Now, remember the difference between, right? This is where now we understand why the Pakinnaka comes before the Chittaviti chapter.
Yeah.
Right? Why the Pakinnaka, the chapter of miscellaneous, comes before the Riti chapter. Right? Now, remember the difference between the door and the base. Right? What is the difference between the door and the base?
It just brings it and the base supports it.
The base supports it and you go through the door.
Yeah. Okay. The base supports the function of the door. Right? The base supports the function or the facilitation of the door. Now we are looking at the door. Right? So the processes of the base and the door are different. Now look at the eye door, please. The 5-door adverting consciousness, the eye consciousness, the receiving, investigating equanimous, investigating joy, determining javanas, sense sphere javanas, and resultant consciousnesses can all be processed at the eye door. Can all be processed at the eye door, allowing these functions to be carried out not only at the heart base but at the doors. But when it comes to Manodwara Biti, then we will study that the mind door has the ability of also cognizing elements with regards to the mind door or those that appear within the mind door, right? Those are processes that are a bit different from the mind door. Do you understand? Now, an I consciousness viti arises where then? Where does it arise?
In the five.
I do at the door.
I do.
Five door and then
High sensitivity.
I chakku dwara viti. I do. I chakku dwara. I do mind process arises or processes where?
Eye sensitivity.
At the I do. Right? At the
I do. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
At the I do. That is where, because then you would understand now in the I do, the mind, right? Think about the play of the 5-do adverting consciousness now. Right? This changes the way that we would view the 5-do adverting consciousness. Does it change it? Because before, it was as if the mind looks at the door. You know what I mean? Now we understand in a deeper sense, it gives more understanding to the fact that the object arrives at the mind, right? And the 5-do consciousness appears at the respective door.
Yes.
You know, that I think gives us so much more understanding of that process. Isn't it?
Yeah.
No? The 5-do adverting consciousness itself is the attention that arrives at the door.
So then it's not really adverting. Then it's not really. Why do you call it adverting?
Say that, okay, we can only say, okay, that it is not really adverting because we expect the mind to advert. That is then where we know and have learnt already that the mind arises in 6 places, the 5 sense doors and the mind door. So the mind isn't just in one place. Yeah? Is that clear, Dil?
Yeah, I think so, Bhante. I have to think about it.
Any questions?
No, but because it arises both in the mind, the 5 sense doors as well as the mind door. So therefore, I suppose you have no need to advert it even though you're calling it, because it's presenting in both.
Now, Dil, in that statement, look at the I present there. We presume that there is a person in charge of the process of adversion. There is no, this is a process which allows the mind to be mobile in that way.
Yes.
Now that is a beautiful example of how I distorts our proper understanding, isn't it? Don't you think?
Yes.
You know, because now, you know, because we would naturally assume that it's looking at the 5 sense door. But in actuality,
the process
appears that itself is a process of the 5-do adverting. The mind appears where there is an object to be adverted. See? That's very insightful. Yeah, that itself is the process of the I, the Atmanas. We choose to believe that I exist, I is in the part of the brain or somewhere that we've been conditioned to believe it is in, right? And we expect that it sort of has this connection with the others, which then processes all the information at one place. It is like, you know, we put the eggs, the butter, the milk, and make a cake in one bowl. We assume that there is a person making the cake. Similarly, there's a person who's putting all of this together, who is I. That is not there. Okay.
Good. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah. Any questions? Any more?
Bhante,
Yeah.
when
Yes,
it comes
please.
to the Jamana, does it have to be a physical action, Bhante, or can it just be like a thought of opinion on the object? Because if, for example, you take something in with the eye door and then think that you don't like it, but then don't take an action physically against it.
Repeat the question, please.
At the Jamana stage, does it have to be a physical action that you take regarding the object, or can it just be a mental sort of?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have not come to the mental objects as yet. So what we have done today is the first, which is a physical object, which is the Chakku Vinyana, right? Chakku Dwaraviti. So it can very well take objects which are not five sense door based as well. Mano Dwaraviti.
Bhante, but even if it was based on the five sense doors, in the Jamana stage, do you have to take a physical action, like to pick it up or something at the Jamana stage, or does it have to be a physical action, or can it just be a mental something?
Absolutely. It can be a mental, verbal, or physical. Right? It can be a mental, verbal, or physical. Remember, we also had Anusaya, Pariyuttana, and Vitikkama. Anusaya is the latent tendencies. Vitikkama are the hindrances that arises up to the mind, and Vitikkama, Pariyuttana are those where the verbal and bodily intimidation happens with the push of the hindrance. All three of these are possible through the javanas, right? So it can be either one of it, right? So when the javanas, now let's say, just like a doctor, an engineer, a scientist, a monk, a pharmacist, a driver, whatever, just like we are all molded and created. How are we molded and created like that? Through re-adversion to that science again and again and again and again and again and again. What is that? The process of Jamana. Right? The process of Jamana. That is when, for example, an engineer, he looks at a house and says, no, I don't think this is built properly. That is where a doctor looks at a patient and says, maybe she has this or he has this. You know, this is the medicine for this or that is the medicine for this. It is so natural in so many ways. Right? Why? Re-adversion again and again and again and again. Language study. When you are studying a language, having one class a week is not enough. You need to be studying it, doing a bit of language study each day to be able to really perfect it. Why? Re-adversion. Again and again and again and again and again. Right? That makes possible what? Studies. So when you study and when you remember something, that is also Javana. Right? Javana molds us. Javana leaves a mark, a blueprint. A blueprint. Yes, it can edit and change the conditioning and all of that as well. That is all done by Javana. Right? We'll discuss this further next week. All right. So if you have any questions when you're reading through, make sure you do read the book. I think this is a very interesting. This is a very interesting chapter. So make sure you do read, and if you have any questions whatsoever, write them down and we'll discuss them next week. All right. So I will see you all on Wednesday. Take care and have a lovely rest of the night. All right. All the best.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
All
Bhante,
right.
thank you.